everybody doesn't know how many years you have to pay this loan. Is it, they say that okay, you can pay it for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. What is the duration which you can get to repay the loan?
Okay. So yeah, coming to the important point of how long should be your tenure of repayment of the loan. So the financial institution gives you, generally a maximum of 15 years. So, but some institutions give you 12 years again. So it all depends on from which institution you borrow your loan, what are their terms and conditions. But then one more thing I wanted to, emphasize was, so all these financial institutions which, give you loan without a co-signer, they're doing it at a very high risk because there is no guarantee that you're going to repay. What if you finish your DDS and next day you take a flight back to India, right? They have no control. So that's the reason why their rate of interest is pretty high. I think I forgot to mention this point last time.
Yeah.
So their rate of interest is pretty high. So when you have a cosigner, your rate of interest is around 5 to 6%, depends on the credit history of the cosigner. But here, there's no credit history. So that's the reason why their rate of interest is pretty high. So I would say somewhere around 8%, 8 to 9%. Again, it fluctuates depending on the financial climate. So that one thing I want to mention to your viewers is that expect a higher rate of interest, but definitely lesser than the educational loans in India because they are around an 11%. And here you can expect around 8 to 9%. So that is one more thing. And second important thing is they have a ceiling as to how much they can finance. Right now, I think Prodigy or Empower Financing, they do like a maximum of $100,000 or $120,000. That was, that's what I think. But there might be any changes by the time you apply. So make sure you talk to them, discuss about your situation. They might be able to fund you more. But at this point of time, it was 100,000 or 120,000. So that would roughly, come up to around 1 year of your tuition and living.
And it makes sense, right? Because they would also not like to pay everything because it's such a high risk to pay to someone who has not given any collateral.
Yes.
But the question remains, Dr. Abhishek, that
yes.
That when do you start repaying this loan? Is it just after your DDS, or is it after 1 year of DDS or 2 years? Is there any specific rule that by this time you should start paying the loan, even if you don't have a job? Do you have any rules like that?
Yeah. So again, it all of these things are mentioned in your contract when you sign the contract for your loan. So the norm is you generally start paying out the loan 6 months from the date of your graduation. So you get like 6 months time wherein, that's the time for you to find a job, get settled. And if you have any expenses, you can take care of them. So it's not that you need to start paying right off the bat that, okay, I joined my work today, I received my paycheck here, and then I start paying the loan. No, it's not like that. You get 6 months of time. And then right now, because of COVID, many financial institutions have, postponed student loan repayments. So don't get me wrong, they only postponed. They have not forgiven it. So you will be responsible for the payments. And because they have postponed, the interest keeps getting accrued. It's not that you're free of interest. You're paying interest, even though you're not paying the principal. So that is one thing I would like to, tell your viewers. Then second thing would be, as an international student with so much of debt, you're just starting out. So good thing is the job market is as hot as ever. Okay. So you don't have to worry about loan repayments because, as I've already spoken in my previous podcast, the dental market in the United States is highly regulated. You only have 5,000 dentists who are coming in every year. And there are many more people who are retiring. So I don't think so there'll ever be a situation wherein the market will be saturated and you're not able to find a job. I don't think that situation is ever going to come as long as it's tightly regulated. So finding a job is no big deal. You have
but Abhishek, but this many times I have spoken to people about finding the job, which people have told me that you have to have a job which will sponsor your H1b visa. Can you tell us something about that? What exactly, which type of job and where will you find it?
So now, because what happens is most of the employers right now in the United States, they know that there are foreign trained international dentists and most of them are Indians. and they require visa and green card sponsorship to continue in this country. So right now, the shift that I see is when I started off, looking for jobs in the job market, you have these big companies called
Chains.
DSOs.
Yes, dental chains. Yeah.
So in United States, you call them as DSOs, Dental Service Organizations. So they are huge. They, are slowly capturing the market. If I should give you a breakdown, at least 40% of the dental practices here are owned by DSOs because they have the scale of volume, right? So they can do whatever they want. So, and they're huge. I mean, just to give you an example, there are few DSOs like Western Dental. They have like 600 offices in the sense dental clinics.
Dental clinics, yeah.
And then there is another called PDS, Pacific Dental Services. They also have around 600 offices in the United States. Then there's something called as Heartland. So all these DSOs, they are the ones who primarily sponsor H1B and green card. But make sure that there are many private practices too. Don't get me wrong that private practices don't do that. They also do that. But depends on what their experience has been with respect to sponsoring a candidate. And, because if you want to sponsor a candidate, you need to have a legal attorney or a lawyer who does all the paperwork for you. And that's additional headache for the company. So big companies, they don't mind. They have a lot of money. They can hire. They have a legal department and it's smooth, there. But there are smaller firms or private, practices too that they do. So getting an H1B is no big deal. All it matters is where you want to live, which kind of city you want to live. Do you want to live in a smaller town? Do you want to live in a suburb? Or do you want to live in downtown, New York or Manhattan or the Bay Area or the Silicon Valley? It all depends on your choice. So you're the king. You just pick wherever you want to live. And yeah, that's it. Finding a job.
Abhishek, there are two important things here. Is there any, because at least till now we have heard that H1B is a lottery-based system. I'm not sure whether it is about to change because we have seen that that is what the policy which is trying to do. But is there any remote possibility that you may not get H1B visa in this lottery system? Is it possible that way?
Yes, Suresh. So I have had many of my friends who graduated with DDS with loans and their H1B didn't get picked. Because it's a lottery. So everybody has a, fair chance. It's cruel that you have to go through, education again in this country. You're a doctor, you're a healthcare provider, and still a random algorithm determines your success in this country, right? It's cruel. But then that's how it is. There is a chance that your H1B may not get picked because every year the H1B numbers are fixed at 80 or 85,000, right? But you have 3 lakh, 4 lakh, 5 lakh people applying for H1B in the near future. And most of them are IT companies. So, there is a very high chance that your H1B may not get picked. Yes.
But then what will the student do? Because they have to repay the loan. What will the student do? Will they shift to Canada? Will they shift to Middle East? What do you, if you have come across any of this situation?
Yeah. So luckily, for healthcare workers, so there are something called FQHCs. They're called Federally Qualified Health Centers. They are representative of our government
hospitals. Okay.
Yes, government hospitals in each and every district. So they are like your primary health center, PHCs, right? So you, like how we had in Davangere, the Chickateri Hospital or the CG Hospital. So it's equal to those. So these hospitals in FQHCs, you can work as a dentist and you don't need an lottery H1B. Okay, so you still need an H1B, but then it doesn't go in the lottery. So the hospital, because it's a federally qualified health center, it can apply an H1B on your behalf and it is going to get processed as long as the paperwork is correct. So as long as your paperwork is watertight, no loopholes, then your H1B, you start working because it's not a lottery. So I have many friends who have, transitioned from private practice to H1B because 1 year after you graduate, you have something called as an OPT. It's called optional practical training. So everybody who graduates with a DDS in the United States, a foreign, national, they have 1 year of OPT. Nobody can take that away from you as long as the government decides to. But right now, there's something called 1 year of OPT wherein you can practice dentistry for a year. It has to be in the same area of your education. Okay, so I cannot do dentistry and do, something else. I cannot do real estate or anything else because it's not the same field.
Yeah. Same field where you got the degree, the same field.
Yes. So 1 year of OPT, everybody can work. So then when it comes to applying for your H1B, just put in your, system in the lottery and then hope it gets picked. If it doesn't get picked, there are a lot of FQHCs, federally qualified health centers, which can apply for your H1B and you start working in them. So
but is there any disadvantage of working? Is there any financially, maybe you may not earn as good as these private practices? I think somewhere you may have to compromise. Yes. If you're working in this, is there any something like that?
Yes. So I wouldn't call it as a disadvantage. I would call it as, your lifestyle adjustment or a little bit of compromise. If you really want to live in like a big town or your downtown, if you're a downtown kind of a guy or a big city kind of a guy, then because what happens is with these FQHCs, there are generally more options available in rural or semi-urban places, first thing. And second, there are FQHCs in big cities too, but to find a job in these cities would be more competent. And make sure that not every FQHC will again sponsor your H1B because it depends on the demand and supply. If you are in downtown Manhattan or downtown San Francisco in the Silicon Valley, they don't need to sponsor cap exempt H1B, right? Because they have their own citizens and permanent residents available to take up the job. But if you're somewhere in rural California, somewhere around, Mexico border or somewhere in and around Alabama or somewhere in the middle of nowhere, then, or maybe if you're 100 miles from a big city, then it is difficult for them to find a permanent resident or a citizen willing to work there and, take care of the community there. So then they will be ready to sponsor your H1B. So there is a little bit of compromise everywhere. So it just depends on your situation. So many people like to work in an FQHC because it is less stressful than a private practice, wherein you don't have to worry about production and it's a totally different model. But then you have your peace of mind, but then there is a give and take everywhere.
I think that it's true that it's not a compromise, but you are getting a visa for working. That is something which everybody is worried of because even to apply for B1, B2 visa, as many students, visa gets rejected. Yes. So H1B is something which I'm sure that people will be willing to join anywhere if they reach that situation.
Yeah, I mean, another encouraging thing for people who are aspiring is most of these FQHCs, they're again, run by international trained dentists from India because once their H1Bs don't get picked, they are willing to go ahead and work, in all of these opportunities, wherever there are opportunities. I haven't seen any dentist being forced to come back to India unless they really want to, because you have these FQHC kind of opportunities available here. Yeah. Not like an IT guy that your H1B doesn't get picked. Now you have no option. You have to come back. No, not like that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's something new information, which definitely gives some hope to at least answer this very confusing question, which people keep asking. You keep on mentioning, rural, downtown. I know this because I have visited, but I'm sure our viewers don't know it. Mm-hmm. When you say rural, does it mean exactly like a village like which we have in India? What is the basic difference which you can think of when you plan to settle in this rural or downtown? Just in a brief way.
Yeah. So Suresh, again, it's a personal choice. Everywhere. So some people like to be in the midst of things. Generally what I see is most of these, unmarried bachelor kind of people, they want to be in a downtown or a city kind of a life because they have more options, right? They have, more of shopping malls, more of eateries, more of bars, restaurants, movie theaters, and all of these things. That's where, more of gyms. So these are more, kind of stuff that you see in the downtown kind of a life. But then once you start, getting older now and you graduate from a bachelor kind of a life to a family kind of a life, then you start worrying more about what kind of an atmosphere you want to give your kids, the schools, the neighborhoods. Then you start, my personal experience, what I've seen in America is in my limited, time that I've spent here. So generally families, they prefer to live in suburbs. They don't want to live in downtowns. Okay. So families prefer to live in suburbs. Then most of these bachelorette kind of people, without families, I'm, by no means I'm demeaning them, or I'm not looking down on them. It's just their kind of, lifestyle, whatever. It's again a personal choice. But then when you see there's not a stark difference between downtown kind of a life to suburbs or rural. The only thing I would say is you wouldn't find like a high-end branded store in a rural area or in a semi-urban area, or you might not find huge malls. You might not have huge convention centers wherein you have all these NBA games going on, or it's just that kind of a lifestyle. But the basic amenities, I would say the schools, the healthcare, the water, and transportation, the roads, I don't think so there are any differences between them. It's just the kind of neighbors, the kind of people, and the character that the particular rural community has. That's the only difference. And you have more cosmopolitan outlook in cities, and it's more of a conservative or a rural outlook in, when you come to semi-urban such of places. Yeah. But don't get me wrong.
The private practice, you said, what are the options? You mentioned, very important point. All information which I have not heard till now, and I'm sure everybody who listens to this long podcast will find it very helpful. What about the academic jobs after TDS? Is it possible by just doing DDS, you just go and join a dental school there? Will they give you a job there, or no? They will say no, you will have to again do some MS program or some residency program, or you come with some experience, maybe 5 years of practice. What is the job opportunities in academics?
So I would say the job opportunities in academics again. So this is another option for people whose H1b doesn't get picked in the lottery. So if your H1b doesn't get picked in the lottery, you could also start working in an academic institution as a tutor. Tutor in the sense, in India, we have all these assistant professors, associate professors, and professors kind of a grade. But here, when you work, that is just, when you're on the teaching side of things in the United States. When you're on a clinical floor, teaching somebody, it would more be like a clinical tutor. That's what they call them as. So you're on the clinical floor trying to, help out your third year BDS or your final year BDS students in clinics. So these job opportunities are plentiful. But then again, and these schools, they sponsor your cap exempt H1B. That is the H1B which are out of lottery. So this is a good option. But then there are also downsides to it. One, they are not as many as your FQHC jobs. Then, second, I think the pay or the amount of money that you can make as an clinical tutor would be way less than what you make in private practice. So that's the reason why not many people gravitate towards academics here in the United States. But then again, as it is in India, it's always a personal choice. Some people are so passionate about teaching. Like what I see that in Suresh. He's really passionate about teaching. It's at the end of the day, it's not more about money. It's about you're trying to give back to your alma mater, your school, your profession, and the satisfaction that you get out of spreading knowledge, that's priceless. You cannot put a cap on the money, on what a teacher does. But then again, it's a personal choice. Initially, you're out of school, you have a huge debt. So some people would want to take the private practice route. And some people like, no, I don't care. I might pay it a little longer, but this is what my passion is. I want to do teaching, and I start working in a school. Yeah.
Thank you, Abhishek, for praising me. But I also want to tell you that you are equally important, because not everybody will come on Aspire32 and share such information. And I'm sure the dental community in India is really thankful. Someone somewhere will watch this podcast and they will get inspired. I have one or two last questions to you. One thing which you have missed is how many years, suppose you have a private job, and you have a good amount of salary, and I'm sure that we would not like to give all the amount and pay back to the loan. I don't know how things actually work in United States. Suppose I get 10,000 rupees and I have a EMI of maybe 5,000. I'm not sure whether I would be happy to pay 10,000 every month. I would want to save something for my expenses. So how does this repay work, and how many years you would generally expect to in United States to repay this loan?
Okay. Yeah, Suresh, that's a very important question. So what I would like to say is, again, it depends on individual situations. I have seen people, if they're earning like okay, let's go with the rupees. So if they're earning 10,000 rupees, okay, they are saving, they are only utilizing whatever bare minimum they want to. They are living, they are just continuing the same student lifestyle even after they start practicing, because they want to clear off their loans faster. They don't want that loan. So they are living very frugal. They're not spending much. They're continuing the student lifestyle. And I have seen people repay their loans in maybe 3 years, 2 years. It depends on how much loan you have taken again. If you have only taken for the second year, it's different. You only have a very less loan. If you have taken for 2 years, it's a longer loan. So everything depends on your lifestyle. And the good thing is there is no prepayment penalty here in the United States, generally with most of the banks. So this month, there is a minimum that you need to pay, and the minimum that you need to pay will be calculated with respect to the maximum amount of tenure. So the maximum amount of tenure you could have selected maybe 15 years. So 15 years for your amount of loan, there is a minimum that you need to pay. So that minimum you really need to pay. But this month, maybe you feel that you have saved a little bit more, you haven't spent. Just put that amount in your loan if you want to reduce the interest. They're not going to charge you anything. Then maybe, you have some extra money lying around. Maybe you sold something, you sold your car, or maybe there's some extra bonus that you get from your job this month. You like $10,000 extra this month. What do? You utilize it, you spend it. You don't want to spend it, put it in your loan. So everything depends on, what your needs are. If it's a family, obviously you will need to save more because the needs of the family, your kids, everything has to be taken care of. Then you might want to stretch the loan for a longer time. But if you feel, no, I'm comfortable with my financial situation, I want to go ahead and repay, you can repay it in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. If you want to take it, and there's another important aspect. So generally here for dentists, people advise that student loan is good loan, good debt, because your rate of interest is less, around 5-6%, depends. So what they say is, don't try to repay off the loan as soon as possible. So whatever extra money that you're making, instead of putting it in the loan, try to invest. Take another loan for a house, or take another loan for your practice if you want to be a practice owner. So try to invest in different places. So many financial advisors also advise that to you, that, because try to repay the loan with with the highest interest rate first. If you have another loan with a higher interest rate, repay that first. Don't put everything in student loan. So it's a very dynamic situation. It again depends on your personal mindset. So some people want to repay it sooner, they do it. Some people want to invest, put that extra money in a home, put that extra money in a practice. So, you can do whatever you want. It depends on your situation.
Yeah. You mentioned a very important point here, and I think that should be our last question. Mm-hmm. Because we have covered almost everything. I'm not sure if we have missed any point, because one thing led to another and we have covered everything. You mentioned about starting the practice. Mm-hmm. I have heard in the Middle East, if you want to start your dental clinic, you need a partner who is a citizen of Middle East. How is the criteria in United States? Can you directly go and buy or start a dental practice even if you are not a green card holder or a citizen? Is it possible?
Excuse me. Suresh, with my limited experience, whatever I have heard from my friends, their experiences who have been practice owners, the easiest way to start your own practice is to have a green card or a citizenship. But for people on H1b, there are other ways you could start your practice. One is, as you mentioned, it's about having a partner. So I might have a friend who is a green card, and he might, I can, open a practice in partnership with him. Yes. But just exclusively based on H1b, I cannot be a practice owner, because H1b visa is for an employee. Yeah. So I have to be an employee. I cannot be an owner.
So at the end, I want to know, mm-hmm, how is the life as a dentist? Because you are started practicing now, and we want to conclude this podcast. What is your daily routine like, or maybe a week like?
Mm-hmm. So first thing is, what I saw the difference between dentistry is that, you see more of a work-life balance here. And as I already told you, people give more emphasis and importance to oral health. So you have very less people requesting for a weekend or a late appointments on a weekday, which is unlike, what was my experience in India. Generally, people want a weekend appointment, or they want to come in after 7, 8 all of that stuff. That doesn't happen in the United States. So it's like a daily, a 9 to 5 or a 10 to 6 kind of a work. So you get in, you have your schedule set, and most of the dentistry here in the United States is insurance regulated. So you don't have to haggle for prices with your patients, which is very common back in India. So, they know that this is the service they need, the insurance pays this amount, and they owe this amount to the office. So generally it's kind of smooth, but then sometimes there are also some exceptions. You need to, let the patient know about their, some exceptions here and there, some treatment which are not approved by their insurances. It's a complicated situation because of the insurance thing. But as a doctor, it's about you having, I would say my routine day would be like maybe 15 patients, 15 to 20, a mix of exams, treatments, some emergencies, walk-ins, and, no day is like another day. No days are similar, but I've been enjoying this ride so far. So let's see what the future has in stake, and I'll keep all your viewers updated. I know that next time I'm going to be on Aspire32, they're going to be like maybe double the amount of viewers. I wish so. And please forgive me that, it's been a long podcast. And if I've gone tangential on any issue, it's just that I'm just trying to put things in perspective so that people understand the background of whatever is happening. Yeah.
Yeah. One last end question. Mm-hmm. What is one thing you miss in dentistry which was there in India, but not in the States?
Okay. I would say in India, I had the teaching aspect or the academic aspect to dentistry also. But right now I'm a full-fledged private practitioner. So I miss that, interaction with my students, the learning that we get from our students, because, whenever you had to be ready for a class or anything, I always used to look forward to their quirky questions or anything wherein, I also, it was a learning experience for me. So I missed that interaction with my students in dentistry back in India. That used to keep my day really, really lively. But here what happens, it's like a clockwork here in the United States. You have to go and you have these, timings for the patients. You just have to be on your toes. It's a busy day, no doubt. But, I miss that human interaction with my students. That particular, it's like, the intellectual interaction. Yeah, I would call that an intellectual interaction with my students. Yeah, I miss that in dentistry here because hopefully, sometime down the line, I would want to get into maybe at least 1 day or 2 days of academics so that, there's a good balance. But there's a good work-life balance here that once you're done 9 to 5, 10 to 6, the other time is yours. You don't do like a 9 to 9 kind of a day here. So that way there are, gives and takes, compromises everywhere.
Great. My dear friends, this is the Dr. Abhishek for you, giving amazing explanation from his heart about his journey. And if you have any questions, don't forget to mention in the comment section, and do share this information with your colleagues and friends. And once again, Dr. Abhishek, thank you so much for coming on Aspire32 and sharing all your experiences with our viewers. My heartfelt thanks to you and my viewers.